Star Citizen has been laughed at by many for a few key reasons that they just have not been able to shake. Selling JPEGs, creating a game for our grandchildren, comms mishaps, falling short on performance, and constantly putting themselves in bad situations with a combination of any of these things. In 2025, the company very obviously made an attempt to shift this view, and I believe it's just the beginning of a trend leading up to and passing the release of Squadron 42. From canceling marketing events to ending their JPEG sales, Star Citizen has started to leave behind the tech demo Kickstarter days more focused on development and rough in the optics, and is moving to a more game-focused but corporate experience focused on player enjoyment. They're finally preparing to launch a game, and I want to talk about what that looks like. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. Selling pictures of spaceships probably doesn't sound very lucrative to you, but Star Citizen has been doing it since its inception. The name Store Citizen comes from the insistence on everything revolving around spending money to help fund the development. This is a necessity, but it's not without its problems. One of those was selling ships that hadn't actually been made. That's been starting to cause more problems as those ships come to the reality of the real gameplay that they need to handle. But that's all done. It has been slowing over the years, but 2025 was the first year without a single concept ship sale, and they've been actively pledging to avoid any more going forward, aside from one final stretch goal.
So our first year without concept sales, we don't want to do any more concept promotions ever again.
The stance to only sell what they can actually deliver in the game is likely going to resonate well with skeptics and give the company a better image. Another move improving their image is actually canceling a marketing event. CIG is notorious for putting themselves in avoidable bad situations, generally by releasing high-tension editions around the same time as high-capacity sales events and free-fly weeks. Bad servers, crashing computers, and the overall bad publicity these events create gets old over time. Back in Q1 of 2025, CIG actually opted to cancel one of their regular free-fly weeks to spare everybody the bad experience. This lines up with their supposed patch quality score that goes into every update now, as talked about by their CEO, in that it shows a focus on at least trying to put the current experience first, rather than the marketing and cool feature deliveries all at once. They still do that at times, don't get me wrong, but this was a good start to change, and I do believe moves like this, regular maintenance, and more communication around the actual state of the game is going to give players a better idea of the game. Finally, those bits of communication they are letting out are coming from very particular places. Real-time live monitoring of the game is one thing, but generally important messages have now been reserved for the heads of their teams to deliver, or from the real high-ups like the CTO, the senior game director, or the narrative leads. While this isn't a bulletproof strategy, it's led to a more controllable communication pipeline from CIG. They can now dictate which things actually get figured out before the necessary people deliver the information. This company has put themselves in bad spots a lot with how open they've been about what's going on. It's been incredibly informative and interesting for the players, but it also ends up with people holding them accountable to the smallest comments by people who might not have the authority to make those comments reality. This does mean that shows like Star Citizen Live, Inside Star Citizen, and Calling All Devs have been demoted or completely disappeared, but I think we might see a bit of a realignment next year. Regardless, it's clear that communication has shifted over this year. Even Jared shared towards the beginning of the year that previous ideas and promises from the company need to be seriously considered in terms of their feasibility. Like I said earlier, people said a lot of things, and reality has set in for the game being made. CIG seems to be working on actually making and delivering it now. Now, if you wanted to jump into Star Citizen, you need to know this: the content gets incredibly repetitive. From 2018 until 2023, all you could do was deliver some boxes, deliver other box-sized things, go to an underground bunker and shoot some folks, do some mining, or shoot folks in a spaceship. There were a few other things to do, but there was almost no progression. No interactive NPCs, no storylines, no talking heads, no plot, virtually no continuation between missions, and the number of contracts that did exist was pretty small and limited. In a lot of places, that hasn't changed. But thankfully, there is more progression in actual contracts for most gameplay now, but contract availability is not what CIG shifted this year. No, 2025 was the first year storylines began to dominate Star Citizen. We started out in Pyro, bringing attention to the new system, which was very broken, before we returned to Stanton for the Hathor facilities. These locations were the first that felt to me like a sandbox of players, NPCs, and in-game objectives that left you unsure of what might happen when you visited. Yes, I know many of you got killed out there, but plenty of people have very interesting encounters here, and it can lead to you walking away with all kinds of stuff. But that didn't get close to the dungeons that we saw added in the Onyx facilities, underground labyrinths filled with puzzles, enemies, and valuable loot, audio logs, great world building, and a demented storyline of human experimentation kept players engaged and wanting more, which was given. The underground facilities expanded as CIG focused on following this narrative and development throughout the year, rather than just adding and forgetting like so many times before. This ultimately showed some forethought as it led into the reveal of the third star system, Nyx, which stepped things up again in terms of the stakes at hand, introducing the definitive bad alien race of the whole IP after years of waiting. From the Onyx facility dungeons to the dynamic event Hathor facilities, the pyro-based boss battle sequences, the storylines, even the NPCs guiding us through mission chains and combat training, contested zones, offering packaged PvP, and in-game rewards for doing all of these things, none of this was available in Star Citizen before this year. And I know the implementation of Wicklow himself is worth screeching over, but the actual interactivity of finding or earning things, turning them in, and receiving something else is also an idea that just wasn't a thing before. And I think that points towards the future. All of these, in my opinion, are moves towards a real game, even if some of them don't land entirely on their feet. Putting the content aside though, let's give it up for the tech in 2025. For years we've been hearing about Gen 12, the Vulkan API, server meshing, engineering, even virtual reality was getting some mentions. All of these things hit player hands in 2025 in some way after years of discussion and speculation. Server meshing has stabilized the game, but it still admittedly has only expanded our player count to around 700 per instance. Vulkan has optimized the game and allowed for more use of the GPU, revealing more graphics options for players and providing support for other features like virtual reality, which has become a reality in 2025. There's no one advancement to give credit to, but FPS counts have also improved for computers alongside server tick rates. And CIG has trotted out their CTO a couple of times now to explain the actual thought and methods behind the optimizations and what they're doing to make the game play a little better. At the beginning of the year once to explain, and at the end of the year later to validate and reiterate. The communications have been tighter, allowing them to put on a more competent face about these things, until they release 4.3.2, but we'll just forget about that. That being said, I need to be clear here. The tech is still not where it needs to be, but the big ticket items are finally being implemented. No more talking about how they can fix things. It's finally time for CIG to put up, and I think they recognize that. The words finally match the implementations on the back end, so we'll see where CIG goes with Star Citizen from here. But in 2025, it definitely took a significant step towards supporting the world that they've been selling to players. Then there's the marketing, the part everybody hates until your favorite chip is on screen. I don't actually have much to say about marketing that hasn't already been said. The trailers surrounding Star Citizen have gone from feature lists and advertisements of tech to storytelling, setting a tone, and placing the player in a character's shoes. Likewise, the Resource Rush trailer intelligently dipped into the in-game lore to help drive brand loyalty in an event, rewarding them with specific in-game items. The in-game rewards and promotions in 2025 took a step up, connecting people to the game more and getting folks more invested in their own character and gear. You can see on the website side, the launcher side, and general resources online that things are cleaning up to be easier to navigate and better to look at. Not marketing, but closely associated and definitely focused on cleaning up the image. Twitch drops were a big sign that CIG is gearing up for a more public marketing push. They are more confident in their ability to host increased players and viewership, which during the Twitch drop event, there were problems, but I think things went better than most of us were expecting, which would not have gone that well in the past. This type of promotion is also calling out to more casual viewers and players, hoping to get them locked into the game off a free asset and interested in possibly jumping back in later when Squadron 42 gets their attention, and they already had to make that account earlier. A smart play, and a telling one. And then there are the updates, an update almost every month for the whole year, new features, content, and ships in those updates, and mostly performing better than anything from previous years. This was a great cadence that probably can't keep up, but it certainly worked well for keeping attention on the game and keeping activity up. But Monetization is heavy as always, if not heavier. They're getting a bit heavy-handed, but I can say that 2025 led to more creativity and interactivity than previous years, and I think it's just another part of this same push from the whole company to pick things up a bit. Get yourselves ready, like Space Jesus was coming. Star Citizen is nowhere close to launching, but since the end of 2024, it has started to show signs that it wants to. You can say all you want that it's never releasing, but it's clear they are working towards something, and 2025 was a big moment for the company to turn in lockstep towards a more mature, realistic, and based game studio. This is a project with a lot of baggage, a lot of problems, and a lot of work ahead of it. But I am glad to see in 2025 that the company feels like they are taking the delivery and coordination of the game more seriously. Better business decisions, ships releasing to actually match their gameplay, no more JPEGs, real things to do in game, better playability. There are plenty of problems still with the game, but all of this indicates that they do care about the game and experience playing it. But the communication can still be rough, the monetization is still going to turn most people away, and the sales are literally constant. They've certainly made progress here, and the company has started to really grow into a mature studio, but more is going to need to come. We'll see how things go in 2026. Now before you go, I want to say, virtual reality is pretty awesome, and it's one of the biggest tech advancements in the game in 2025. But I have a message from the Tobii Eye Tracker 5, and it's that your neck is delicate and headsets are heavy. Now I say this because the eye tracker gives an experience that isn't similar to VR, but it's kind of light. It tracks your eyes and your head movement and how close you are to the computer monitor. It doesn't put you in a virtual world, but it definitely lets you feel more like you're sitting in the cockpit of your spaceship. It allows you to target individual ships, scan off-axis targets, and control your camera and head entirely separately from the rest of your body anywhere in game. It integrates with missile systems, weapon systems, and all other kinds of things that work really natively in Star Citizen. It runs well in the dark, it works in the light, and if you have glasses or even just one eye, you're good. And it can actually act as a very expensive security device too, validating with Windows Hello to log you into your computer, validate your payments, and help you multitask. I personally love the thing, and while this video is sponsored by Tobii, you can rest assured if you have your mouse, keyboard, and maybe a HOTAS, I would definitely still recommend one of these regardless. Currently, there is a 20% discount on the device through January 6th if you use the link down below. But if you do see this later or need a moment to think, you can still use that link later and my code TOMATO at checkout to get 5% off if you want to try one out. The return program is pretty good too if you decide you don't like it. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video, learned something new in it, and I'll catch you in the next.